Let's set up a Ubuntu server for network testing. We'll set up a basic Ubuntu Linux server with common services for network testing. So let's start our vanilla Ubuntu server. You see here we are in the Ubuntu terminal. You're seeing welcome Ubuntu Linux. So this is the Ubuntu server, Ubuntu Linux system. Now, the first thing you might want to do is update and upgrade your system. You can do that with this command. Now keep in mind that if you would press enter with this command, it might take a while for the updates to complete. This would update the entire system and also upgrade it. So that's this command. And if you run it, all the software will be the latest version, which will help with the security of your system. Next, you might want to install some common services. And typically, people install SSH for remote access so that they can access their server remotely. They might install a web server to show web pages. And sometimes they install an FTP server for file transfer. So we can install those things with simple commands. This would install SSH with a remote access so you can access the terminal like this anywhere in the world. And you want to enable it. So now SSH is enabled. And you might want to install a web server in case you want to show web pages on the internet. You need a web server to be installed. So we can install it. One of the more common one is Nginx. We install this web server, Nginx. And so that's this command to install a web server. Press yes and enter. Then we make sure that it's enabled. So this command makes sure that the web server is actually enabled. And next, sometimes they install an FTP server to transfer files to and from the server. So they can do, for example, install vsftpd. We'll install an FTP server on the computer, which allows you to transfer files from your computer to the server and back. Now we also want to enable this one. Other things that people might do when they initially configure the server is setting a host name, so setting the name of the server. They might pick some name. They might add a new user to the server, but depending, sometimes they might do that. So they might add a new user. And now it has a new user. And finally, we want to make sure that all these services are running. So we install several network services. We installed the SSH for remote control of the computer. We installed the web server. And we installed an FTP server for file transfer. So we can check, are these actually running on the computer? And do it with this command. So we check if those are running. So we see here SSH is running. If we scroll up, we don't see actually any of the others. So we want to check them one by one. So we check if SSH is running with this command. In this case, it's running. So that's this command. And it's the remote access. So you can remotely log into the server if you have the password and remotely run commands. System administrators often install SSH for that reason. Press Q to quit. Now we can do the same with the web server. So we type Nginx. And in this case, we see Nginx is running. And finally, might want to check if the vsftp is running. And we'll see it's running as well. So install several network services that are running. You might want to know the IP address. We can type IPA. And you'll see a lot of information here. Basically 2 network devices. You see number 1 all the way here and number 2. Now in here, you'll see the addresses of the devices. So this is an internal device, 127.0.0.1. Any computer in the world has that. And then if you look at the second one, inet, this is the actual address before the /24. So this is your actual internet address of this computer. Now, because we have the address, we could now check out this server. So we could, for example, open this address in a web browser, and we should see the landing page, the Nginx landing page, because that's the web server we installed